Torches spat and hissed in the wind, their smoke clawing at the sky above the outpost yard. Chains clinked with each restless shift of bodies, and boots ground grit into the packed dirt floor. The crowd pressed in close, faces half shadow, half firelight, every man with silver in his hand and hunger in his eyes. The gavel slammed. "Next one," barked the auctioneer, his voice cracked like a whip. From the line of captives, they dragged her forward. A young Comanche woman with her wrists bound in iron. Her hair fell loose over her shoulders, matted with dust and blood. She stumbled once, then lifted her chin, eyes burning like coals. "I can cook." Her voice rang sharp against the jeers. "I can sew, clean, mend." She swallowed hard, her chest heaving. "I'll be anything you want." The crowd roared with laughter, the sound mean and jagged. A cowboy spat tobacco into the dirt. Another shouted, "I'll take her for less than a mule." Coins clattered, bids thrown like stones. Through the smoke and firelight, a woman stood apart. Black calico dress, bonnet low, hands folded tight around a rosary. Eleanor Hayes did not move, though her heart hammered against her ribs. Around her the crowd swayed with every shout, the heat and stink of sweat pressing close. Yet she stood still as stone. The auctioneer grinned, teeth glinting. "A strong one, boys. You'll get your worth. We'll start at 50. The girl twisted against the man's grip, but the iron bit deep. Blood welled where steel-kissed skin. She cried again, louder this time, her voice raw and breaking. "Don't let them take me. Please, I'll be anything you need." The laughter dulled for a moment, like the crowd itself had been struck. Some looked away. Others leaned in closer. Eleanor's fingers worried the rosary beads, lips pressed thin. In the girl's voice she heard echoes, not of a stranger, but of her own past. The night her husband's blood soaked into the floorboards, the empty crib where her child had been. Grief swelled up sharp as a knife, cutting through the silence she had lived in too long. The gavel lifted, ready to fall. "Soul, wait." The word cut clean through the noise. The crowd turned. The widow had stepped forward, her bonnet shadowing her face, her voice steady though her hands shook at her sides. The auctioneer squinted. "And what's this? Widow Hayes, you bidding?" Eleanor's eyes rose, catching the firelight. "I am." A murmur rippled through the men, surprise carrying sharp as a rattle in dry grass. The gavel hovered. The Comanche girl's breath hitched, her gaze locking on the woman who stood in black. The beads of Eleanor's rosary dug into her palm as she spoke again, each word iron hard. "I'll take her." And the yard fell silent, but for the hiss of torches in the desert wind. The wind dragged sand across the yard, rattling the shutters of Eleanor's ranch house. The lantern on the porch guttered low, casting long, crooked shadows against the clapboard walls. Inside, the girl sat at the edge of the table, wrists raw from the iron that had been struck loose. Her dark eyes followed every movement with the wary stillness of a cornered wolf. Eleanor set down a tin cup, steam rising from the black coffee. "Drink," she said, her voice flat. The girl did not move. Her hands curled tight against her lap, the bones of her knuckles white. Outside, a coyote yipped in the barren dark, its cry carrying through the open desert like a warning. From the dirt road came the creak of saddle leather, faint but sure. Riders passing. Maybe two, maybe three. Eleanor stood at the window, curtain drawn with 2 fingers. She did not breathe until the sound faded into the night. Whispers had already begun in town. The widow had brought a Comanche into her home. Men would talk. Men would come. She turned back. The girl lifted the cup at last, lips trembling as she drank. The coffee burned her throat, but she swallowed all the same, eyes never leaving the widow's face. "Name," Eleanor said. The girl's voice cracked, low and certain. "Naya." The syllables hung in the room like smoke. Eleanor gave a single nod, then struck a match and lit the oil lamp. The flame climbed, spilling light across the walls where her husband's rifle still hung, untouched since the night he'd been taken. Her fingers brushed the stock, then fell away. Morning came with heat. Sunlight bled red over the desert hills, painting the canyons in streaks like open wounds. Eleanor moved through the barn, pitchfork biting straw, while Naya trailed close, bare feet silent on the dust. She worked with the same fierce pride she had shown at the auction block, but her eyes never stopped scanning the horizon. That evening by the fire, words passed between them in broken pieces. Eleanor pointed to the skillet. Pan. Naya repeated it, halting. Then she touched the knife at her hip. Blade. And so it went. One language shaping another. Yet when Eleanor faltered over the words Naya gave in return, sharp, guttural syllables of her people, something else stirred. She was not teaching a captive. She was listening to a survivor. A hawk circled above the ranch the next day. Not hunting, watching. Eleanor felt it as surely as the bead of sweat rolling down her neck. She followed its shadow until it vanished over the ridge, then caught sight of dust rising on the far trail. Riders again, closer this time. Naya's hand found her arm. No words, just a grip, strong and certain. Eleanor answered with a slow nod, then crossed the porch to where her husband's revolver lay on the table. The steel was cold, heavy, waiting. She slid the cylinder open. 6 chambers, 6 bullets. The shadows on the frontier had drawn near. Gunfire cracked against the stone walls, echoing through the canyon like thunder rolling in a storm. Dust rose in choking clouds as the cattle scattered, their panicked balls swallowed by the roar of hoofs. Eleanor jerked the reins, her wagon lurching hard as a bullet tore through the sideboard. Splinters flew past her cheek. Naya ducked low, bow clutched tight, eyes blazing in the streak of sunlight that cut between the cliffs. Another shot. Sparks leapt from rock a breath from Eleanor's head. She dropped the reins, revolver snapping up. The blast tore from her hand, steady, deliberate. A rider pitched sideways off his horse, crashing into the dust. More! Naya's voice was sharp, urgent. Shapes darted on the ridgeline above. 3 men, rifles glinting. Their shouts echoed, words lost in the wind, but the meaning was clear. They had come to drag the girl back. Eleanor fired again, the recoil jarring her shoulders, but her grip never broke. A rider spun from the saddle, blood misting red against the canyon wall. The others answered with a hail of shots, stone chips raining over the women. The wagon jolted to a halt, while stuck against rock. Eleanor leapt clear, boots hitting the dirt hard. Go, she barked. Naya slid down after her, feet sure on the broken ground. Gun smoke thickened, sharp and bitter on the tongue. Eleanor pressed against the canyon wall, breath steady despite the hammering in her chest. The revolver felt alive in her hand, each chamber a promise. A shadow fell. One outlaw, close now, teeth bared under the brim of his hat. Think a broken widow can stop us. His rifle lifted. Eleanor answered with a single shot. The man folded, rifle clattering useless to the stone. Silence broke for a heartbeat. Only wind moved through the canyon. Then another voice, mocking, rang from above. Hellfire Hayes. The name struck harder than the bullets. Eleanor's jaw tightened, her secret dragged into the open by a man she did not recognize, but who knew her all the same. Naya's eyes snapped to her, wide, questioning. Eleanor said nothing. She only reloaded, each cartridge sliding home with calm precision. The last rider came fast, horse tearing through the dust. Eleanor waited, shoulders square, feet planted. Her shot rang true, clean as judgment. The horse reared, the man thrown hard to the earth. When the dust settled, the canyon lay still save for the echo of the last shot drifting into distance. Blood darkened the sand. The cattle had scattered far beyond sight. Eleanor stood unmoving, smoke curling from the revolver in her hand. Her chest rose slow, her eyes fixed on the horizon where the riders had come. Naya touched her arm, voice low but steady. You? Hellfire. Eleanor did not answer. She holstered the gun, turned her face to the sun sinking low, and started back toward the wagon. The legend had been spoken aloud, and there was no hiding from it now. Boots scraped over the dry earth, spurs chiming sharp in the silence. The main street of the town lay emptied, shutters drawn, doors barred. Only the sheriff's men stood in the dust, rifles slung, revolvers loose at their hips. At their center waited the crooked lawman himself, eyes narrow under the brim of his hat. The sun hung low, a red coin bleeding light across the sky. Heat shimmered above the dirt, every breath tasting of iron. From a far end of the street, Eleanor stepped forward, black dress brushing her boots, bonnet gone, her hair streaked silver in the dying light. At her side moved Naya, bow carved from scavenged wood, an arrow notched and ready. A laugh rippled from the sheriff's men. "You think you'll walk through all of us, widow?" The word cracked like glass in the air. Eleanor's hand hovered above her revolver, fingers loose, steady. Her voice carried cold as steel. "I'm no widow." The first gun fired. Eleanor's revolver cleared leather before the smoke even settled. Her shot split the man's chest wide, dropping him where he stood. Naya loosed an arrow, the shaft cutting clean through another throat. Screams broke the stillness. The town swallowed in dust and thunder. Gunfire tore down the street. Windows shattered, boards splintered, smoke thickened until faces blurred. Eleanor moved with deadly calm, every shot measured precise. Men fell one by one, curses dying in their mouths before they hit the dirt. "Hellfire Hayes!" The sheriff's voice bellowed above the chaos, half snarl, half fear. "I thought you were gone." Eleanor stepped through the haze, eyes fixed on him, her revolver glowing hot in her hand. "Should have prayed I stayed gone." The sheriff fired. The bullet tore her sleeve, grazing skin, but she did not flinch. Her answer thundered back, striking sparks from his badge, spinning him sideways. Naya's cry cut sharp through the smoke. She fought close now, blade flashing in her hand, striking down a man who had rushed her flank. Blood stained her dress, but her eyes blazed bright with fire that would not be crushed. At last only the sheriff remained, staggering backward, revolver shaking in his grip. His men lay scattered in the dust, the street littered with the dead. Eleanor's steps did not quicken, did not falter. She leveled her revolver, the barrel steady as a judge's hand. The sheriff dropped his weapon. Fear cracked his voice. "Don't kill me." Her eyes burned hard, unyielding. "Then live with the shame." The hammer clicked. She lowered the gun. The sheriff stumbled away, boots kicking dust, his shadow stretching long in the dying light. Behind him the town watched through narrow cracks, their silence deep as prayer. Eleanor holstered the revolver. Smoke curled from its barrel one last time, drifting upward to the blood-red sky. Beside her, Naya stood straight, bow lowered but unbroken. Two figures in the dust, bound not by chains but by fire and choice. And so the street whispered with the birth of a legend. The day Hellfire Hayes rose again, when justice walked in black, and a Comanche's plea became the spark that lit the frontier.